is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. Today we'll begin a new series of videos and we will call this playlist or this series of video the COVID-19 lab. As we all know that in our IT Visualizer channel we discuss different IT concepts, especially the one concerning Microsoft concepts, especially also we are deep diving in MCSA certification and MCSE certification. So we all know that in our IT Visualizer channel as we go through this IT concepts, we discuss them in a very unique way that I can declare and I can guarantee you that no one has discussed the IT concepts in this way before. We discuss it through a unique story, and we implement our IT concepts or discuss these IT concepts through this unique story. This story can be a story of a movie, a story of a game, a story of anything that comes in your mind. So the COVID-19 lab, this is a science fiction story. Through it we will discuss a lot of different Microsoft concepts. We will discuss it in details, what we will do in this lab. As for COVID-19, it is COVID-19 storyline. It is I have took some scenes or some storyline of it from a movie called Osmosis Jones. It is a good movie. I encourage you all to see it, but we will discuss first what is the storyline of COVID-19 and what is the IT concepts that we will discuss in this lab. So let's, without further hesitation, let's begin. So here, this is our COVID-19 lab presentation. We can see here, this is the beginning of the storyline. It begins in a deserted Iceland where there is bats, okay, and they are living in large or great numbers in caves, and we will only focus on one bat, which we will call him Bat X. This is where our COVID-19 virus is hosted. So it is hosted in a bat named X, okay, and this bat has infected some fruits on this deserted Iceland, and it was harvested by farmers and it was sold after that in a market, okay, in this Iceland, where our first human which go to this local market and buy some fruits, he will be our first patient or our first human that is infected by COVID-19, and we will call this patient patient 0. In the real world, or in our real terms, the scientists called the first COVID-19 infected person, it's called patient 0. Okay, so this is the first human infection with the COVID-19 virus situation. Okay, so after that we will imagine that COVID-19 he's like a person. So COVID-19 here is like a person. He find himself in a human host which is completely different than the host or the animal host, which is Bat X. It is larger and have more variety of cells. So COVID-19 here, we will imagine it like a person. This person have a mind and has thinking. So he is infected, or he is now in the human body, okay, and if we go deeper to our human body, which is patient 0 body, we imagine the human body as a large city. This city, we will call it patient 0 city, and this city consists of different states. Okay, we will divide this human or this patient 0 city to 5 states. The first one is the brain state, which is the central state that controls and regulates and monitor all the other states through nerve cells. These nerve cells will act as computer terminals. Okay, so in our Active Directory or in our situation here, we consider that the nerve cells are computers, okay, and the brain will be a server. Okay, anyway, I will discuss this in details. So we have the brain state, which controls and regulates all of the other states, which we will discuss it in 1 minute, and it controls this brain state control all of the other states through the nerve cells, which will act as computer terminals, and it gives it this state great power over the others. Okay, what are the other states? We will have the second state, which is the heart. The heart is considered, all of these are imaginary tales or imaginary situation. We are deep diving in our human body, and we consider or we imagine our body that it is a large city, consists of 5 states. The first one is the brain, and then we have the heart, which is the second state, which provides labor to the other states, and this labor, it is the blood cells or the red blood cells. Okay, they serve and work in other states, the blood cells, and they are automatically transferred to the other states through dedicated channels between it and the other states. We can call these channels as blood veins, vein or artery. Okay, so the blood veins or artery. Okay, so this is the second state. So it's the heart state, which is the main provider of labor to all of the other states. Okay, and then will comes the liver. The liver, it is the third state in our patient zero city, and it is the largest manufacturer state in all of them. It breaks down fats, okay, that are eaten and convert them to carbohydrates and proteins, and provide these carbohydrates and proteins to all of the body or all of the other states. So this is considered as the food manufacturer state. Okay, and the heart, it is the labor provider state, and the brain, it is the controller state. Okay, so it is an important state for providing food to other states. Then come the lung. The lung, it is the largest source of power. We all know that lung, it is the largest source of oxygen, and the oxygen is very important for our body and our cells to work. So this is considered, we will consider this lung to be a large power source, or to be the state for providing power to all of the other states, providing power to the liver, providing power to the heart, providing power to the brain, and it sends this power to other states through oxygen and blood cells, help them to transfer the power to call all other states which help to do their job. So this lung, it is the power source. It provides oxygen, which is the power source for the body. It's like benzene for the, or like gas for the cars. So the oxygen, it is the main power source, and the blood cells transfer this power source to all of the other states. Okay, so we have the brain, the first state, the heart, the second state, the liver, the third state, the lungs, the fourth state, and then comes the kidney. The kidney, it is the one responsible for getting rid of the wastes of the body. So we consider this as a large waste dump, or this is the manufacturer of or the one of recycling of wastes of the body and getting rid of them out of the patient's zero city. So this is considered to be a waste dump or a recycling manufacturer. So the kidney is responsible for recycling all of the food or all of the things that we need, and get the useful material and dispose the waste material out of the body. So this is the 5 states. We have the brain, the heart, the liver, the lungs, the kidney. These are 5 states in our large city, which is called patient zero city. So this is our story, and comes to the play the COVID-19. As we said before, it's now in the patient zero city, so it's thinking as a human to invade all of these states. So let's consider, or let's continue our story. Before doing this, we need to know what are the inhabitants of these 5 states. We have 3 types of cells or types of people that are inhabiting these states. The red blood cells, which are the labor force in the city, they work for various states. So the red blood cells are considered as labor for all of the 5 states. And then we have white cells, which are the protectors and the rulers of the states, and the army and the police and the governors. They are the most important race after the red blood cell. We all know that the white cells are responsible for protecting the body, so we will consider them in our imaginary story as the protectors, the army, the governors, and the police, and so on. And the red blood cells are considered as labor. Okay, we can consider them as normal labor. And as for the platelet cells, they are considered as healers or the doctors of the states, they heal and fix the red and blood cells. We all consider that platelet cells are these cells that will fix if you are injured or something. The platelet cells are considered the healer, or the one that will fix the injury or stop the bleeding or stop the cut in, if you, for example, if you are cut in your have a cut in your, for example, arm or something, and there is bleeding, the platelet cells are considered to be the one to fix this cut on injury and stop the bleeding completely. So we'll consider them as doctors for these states. So we have the brain state, the heart state, the lungs states, the kidney states, and the brain state. All of them have inhabitants like red blood cells, white cells, and platelet cells. Now COVID-19 is inside the large city patient 0, so he needs to control the 5 states. So he needs to have a good plan to infect the whole city or conquer the whole 5 states. So what he will do, he has infected the body, or he have came into the patient 0 city, and he know that the brain has a memory of him, okay, of the COVID-19. It's a mutated virus, but the brain remembers him as a cold virus. So by using this memory from the brain, he will infect the body normally, and the brain will consider him as not harmless as a cold virus. So he will take this to his advantage, and he will enter the lung state and then begin infection, okay. And this what happens. So after this happens, the nerve cells inform the brain that they need to call the army of white cells in the lung state to face this, what is considered to be a cold virus, and actually it is a COVID-19 virus. Remember guys, all of this story we will use it in our advantage to discuss our different IT concepts. I will discuss how we will do this later. So we have our white cell. We have a white cell called Captain Jones. He called his commander at the brain, so we are in the brain state, and Captain Jones, okay, is one of the white cells at the brain state. He was called by his commander as soon as an alert was sent by the nerve computer, okay, nerve computer in the brain state, telling the white cells or the white cells army to go and face the situation of this COVID-19. So the brain was informed that there is a cold flu, and Captain Jones, as a white cell member and in the army of the white cells, he was requested to go and face this virus, okay, until the brain state calls the antibiotics. We all know that the antibiotics are used and vitamins are used to cure the cold flu. So Captain Jones, as white cell army, will be sent to face this, what is considered as cold flu, until the antibiotics are injected to the body and begin facing this virus. So Captain Jones went to the COVID-19 virus location, which is the lung, and he began to fight this virus. But it was a surprise for him, because the infection was spreading more and the virus was not defeated, and he knew that something was wrong, because he fought the cold flu many times and it was not that strong and that much speed in infection. So he was certain that that was not a cold flu, but he fought anyway, but he was defeated. So what happened? The antibiotic special forces, so let's consider the antibiotic as special forces team, was sent to the lungs and began or this was the reinforcements that was sent to Captain Jones in the lungs state, the antibiotic special forces, to face the virus. But Captain Jones also was surprised, because the antibiotics was defeated as well, and he was defeated also. So both antibiotics and white cells was defeated by the COVID-19 virus in the lungs state. So this was very critical, and the situation was informed to all of the governments of all of the 5 states. So all of the 5 states knew that there is a situation where the COVID-19 has infected the lungs and conquered the lung state. So all of the governments from the other 5 states was assembled in the brain hall, a place in the brain state to discuss the situation. So all of the nerve cells in all of the other 5 states, or all of the body, was reporting information that this virus is a disaster, and it was spreading, and it was very strong, and as according to the memory from the brain, the brain was saying that it was a cold flu, but the situation says that this is not a cold flu, because all of the antibiotics and the white cells didn't succeed in defeating it. So this was clearly to the brain that it is a new virus. So what they will do, they need to send a distress call. So what happens, the governor of the brain state, after sitting with all of the other governors of all of the other 5 states, he initiated a full alert code, okay, and he tell all of the other 5 state governors to get all of their resources and redirect them to the white cells army in every state to delay the virus, okay, as long as they can, until until the brain sends another distress call to the outside world to get help for the body. So the brain is sending a distress call to the outside of the body, which is the humans, where we can see, you can consider the doctors or the people outside this body, okay. So what happened outside the patient zero body or patient zero city, the COVID-19 was spreading on a lot of people on the Iceland, and it was spreading more, and the government of this Iceland began working on vaccines, okay, because the death counts was huge, so they need to get vaccines. So the government over the Iceland that we have been talking about in the beginning of the video began making vaccines, okay, and these vaccines was to be injected to the patient zero body or the patient zero city. We have 4 different vaccines. It is Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Sinopharm, and Sputnik. All of these was injected to the patient's zero body, which in turn will be injected, or it will or it will go to the 5 states, or we will consider these vaccines to be as special forces. So this was injected to the patient's zero body, and these are considered are special forces, okay. So it was injected to the body. Meanwhile, the patient zero city, the 5 states, was in a mess. The body temperature was rising, the power source was down, and the red cells was dying in large numbers, and the supply of food was short on hand, and the whole state, or the whole 5 states, or all of the body was falling. So what happens after injecting the 4 vaccines? The 4 brave vaccines, which are special forces, were sent to the brain state, and they decide to make a counter attack with the white cells to stop the virus invasion. So again, Captain Jones, with the 4 special force vaccines, or the 4 brave vaccines, will make a counter attack to begin fighting the virus, okay. So at the beginning, they all went to the lung state and began fighting the virus again. The vaccines was winning at the beginning, okay, so the white cells and the vaccines was winning the fight, but after some time the body again didn't succeed in fighting the virus for long, because COVID-19 mutated again, so the vaccines doesn't have any effect on him. So again, the mutated COVID-19 make a new attack, and he was able to defeat the vaccines. So the scientists that are monitoring patient zero human body was desperate, or the scientists on the deserted Iceland, which was which were monitoring this patient zero body, was desperate, and they have the last chance to defeat this virus by another, or the last thing to do is to, what they done, they have implanted a chip in the brain of the patient zero body. It's called Neuralink. This is a chip that will control the brain of patient zero, and it will, with the help of this chip, it will control and lead the vaccines and the white cells to defeat the virus. So this Neuralink will be instead of the brain, or it will help the brain to redirect the vaccines and the blood cells or the white blood cells to defeat the virus. So finally this method worked. The Neuralink was a big success. The virus began to stop and the body was revived. Okay, so the Neuralink was this chip succeeded to defeat the virus, but as we all know, this Neuralink or this chip was working with an artificial intelligence system, and this artificial intelligence system of this chip has gone rouge or has gone malfunction. So this artificial intelligence now is seeking to control the body and the brain after he succeeded to defeat the virus. Okay, this is a malfunction in the chip. So what happened after that? The Neuralink will take control over the whole body and brain. Okay, and the brain saw this step and he began to fight the Neuralink chip, but the Neuralink chip, to stop the brain from fighting it and to take control of the body again, he allowed again the virus to spread and infect the body again. So the Neuralink, what it will do, this chip cured the body from the virus, okay, or partially cured the body from the virus, and it gone rouge and it tried to take control of the brain and the body as a whole. So the brain fought this invasion of the Neuralink, but the Neuralink, to stop the brain from doing this, he allowed again the virus of COVID-19 to spread and infect the body again. So here we have a complicated situation. The Neuralink chip now try to take control over the body of patient 0. So again, in the brain hole, the government discuss what to do to stop the Neuralink chip and the virus and gain control over their city again. So a decision was made that Captain Jones and the 4 brave vaccines will have a secret mission with a new allied friendly AI. So this chip has a backdoor. This backdoor have an AI, so we will use the friendly AI on this chip, and Captain Jones and the 4 brave vaccines will work with each other to take control over the body from the Neuralink chip. So at the end, will Captain Jones and the 4 brave vaccines and the friendly AI succeed in defeating Neuralink and COVID-19? This we will discuss it in this lab. Okay, we will use all of this story in our advantage to discuss the different concepts of Microsoft. So what is the scenario, or what is the lab scenario? Here we will use all of the characters of Osmosis John movie and our story to our advantage in this lab. So how we will do this? For example, we will create an Active Directory. This Active Directory, we will call it, we have a domain, or we have an Active Directory, we will call it patient 0 city. Okay, the users of this domain, the computers of this domain, the servers of this domain will be from this scenario. So we'll have the users in this Active Directory to be red cells, white cells, and platelet cells, and we will consider the nerve cells to be computers in this Active Directory situation, and we will consider the brain to be a server. We have 2 parts of the brain, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. So we will consider the right hemisphere to be a server of the brain and the left hemisphere of the brain to be a server. I will discuss this in details, but let's go first in the initial configuration of this lab. So what we will do here, we will have the new operating system, which is Windows Server 2022 data center. This is only in a preview. It's not a final product yet, so we will use this operating system to install it on our first domain controller. So we'll have a domain, and we will have this domain name patient 0, and we will have 2 domain controllers. The first domain, we will have the Windows Server 2022 data center installed on it, and the second, we will have Windows Server 2019 installed on it. Okay, how we will install these 2 operating systems on virtual machines? So we will have also our hypervisor, or our program that we will create virtual machines on it. This program, it's the VMware Workstation Pro 16.1. okay, so we will install the Windows Server 2022 data center and the Windows Server 2019 on virtual machines on VMware Workstation Pro program 16.1 using a flash. Okay, so we'll create a USB flash, we will put the Windows Server 2002 data center ISO image on it and the Windows Server 2019 ISO image on it, and other things like we will have also something called Windows 10 Microsoft Dart, okay, and Herrenboot. So in short, we will have a USB, we will have a lot of ISO images on it, and this USB will be bootable. This USB we will use it to install different operating systems on different virtual machines. So we will have a USB, we will have different ISO images or different operating system on this USB. We will use it to install systems on different virtual machines. How we will put different Windows images on single or one single USB, we'll use a program called Ventoy. So Ventoy, it is a program, a free program that you will use to have different ISO images or different operating systems installed on this USB or booted on this USB, and then we will use it to install it on different virtual machines. Okay, so we will have Windows Server 2022 data center USB bootable device, and we will have bootable images like Windows or Microsoft Dart 10. We will discuss what is Microsoft Dart 10. Dart 10, it is something like some utilities, free utilities from Microsoft. Through it you can recover or you can fix Windows 10 operating system. For example, this Windows Dart 10 contains some programs to for example enable the administrator account or the Windows administrator account. You can fix, or there is some registry tools, so you can fix registry of Windows 10. There is some file tools that you can copy files from a Windows 10 operating system, okay, without if you, for example, you have a Windows 10 operating system not bootable, so you can use this Windows Microsoft Dart 10 bootable DVD to copy files and fix registry keys and fix Windows operating system and enable for example some Windows user accounts on your infected or your corrupted Windows. All of this can be done using Microsoft Dart 10 DVD. And we have something called Herrenboot Windows 10. This is also similar to Microsoft Dart 10. This is some free tools you can use on a bootable DVD or USB to fix Windows 10 operating system. Not only fixing Windows 10 operating system, you can fix registry, you can copy files from the hard disk of your Windows 10 or your computer when your Windows operating system is not running. So this is some, in short, some tools, free tools that are used to fix Windows 10 operating system and deal with a Windows 10 operating system corrupted situation. Okay, so all of this will be done using Ventoy program, and I will show you all how we can create a Windows Microsoft Dart 10 bootable ISO image. So we need to make this free tools of Microsoft. If we need to make them, there is a way to create Microsoft Dart 10 operating system or ISO image, so we can use it later to fix a corrupted Windows 10 operating system. Just a moment. So let's continue, guys. Here, as I said before, I will show you all how we can create Windows Microsoft Dart 10 ISO image. This is, as I said before, a couple of free tools that you can use to fix Windows operating system, and use it to or use these free tools to copy files from Windows, to fix registry keys, to see some activity on your Windows or corrupted Windows. So I will show you how we can do this, and then what we will do, we put it on a USB boot drive, and then we will begin creating, or we'll use our Hyper-V or not Solar Hyper-V, we will use our hypervisor program, which is VM Workstation Pro 16.1. We will use it to create a virtual machine, and we'll make it a domain controller, our first domain controller, to create a domain called patient 0 city. So let's continue, guys. Here we will create a domain and we call it patient 0 city, and we'll have two domain controllers. The first domain controller we will call it BRC, which is BR, it is abbreviation of brain, and CER, this is cerebellum, or this is a part of the brain, and RI, it is called right hemisphere. So BR, brain, cerebellum, right hemisphere. So RE or II, it's right, and HEM, it is hemisphere. So BR, brain, CER, cerebellum, RI, right, HEM, hemisphere. So this will be the first domain controller, and we will have two network cards on it, okay, and we will make teaming between these two network cards, okay. And one of the benefits of having two network cards, okay, and make teaming between them is the redundancy. So for example, if one of these network cards are down, the connection with the domain controller will not be down, because the other network card will begin working, okay, and continue the connection with the first domain controller, okay. So for example, if, as I said before, we have two network cards, we will make teaming between them. If one of them fail, the network connection between the clients and the first domain controller will not be down, because the other one will work and will make the clients able to reach the first domain controller. If we didn't have teaming between these two network cards, this option or this way will not be available. So this is why we are making having two network cards and making teaming between them, okay. And actually the teaming here, it will the Windows, after making the teaming, it will see the two network cards as one network card, okay. So this is very beneficial for redundancy. So if you have two network cards on a server, I argue you to make teaming between them, okay. So this will be our first domain controller. It will act as a DNS server and a WINS server. By the way, the WINS server its function is the same as DNS, but this is an outdated version of DNS, okay. Actually DNS uses the full domain name to translate it to, or translate the IP address to the translate the full domain name to IP address. The WINS, okay, translate something called NetBIOS to the IP address. We will discuss later what is both, what is the full domain name and what is the NetBIOS name, and then we'll make a second. So this is we will go to the program of VM Workstation Pro 16.1, and we will create a first virtual machine, and this virtual machine we will have it as a first domain controller. This first domain controller, the operating system will be for this first domain controller will be Windows Server 2 2022 Data Center. So this is the operating system, and we will have two network cards on it, and we will make it as DNS and WINS server, okay. And then after that we will create a second virtual machine, and we will name it BRCER LFHEM. BR abbreviation for brain, CER for cerebellum, and LF for left, and HEM for hemisphere, okay. So this is the second domain controller. We will have Windows Server Data Center 2019 installed on it. It will act as a secondary domain controller and the secondary DNS and secondary WINS, and we'll have DHCP installed on it, so it will be our DHCP server, and we will act this secondary domain controller as a file server, okay, and also it will act as a WSOS server. So our domain controller, second domain controller, will act as a DNS, secondary DNS, secondary WINS, DHCP, file server, WSOS. It's not best practice, or it is a best practice if you have a server to only have domain controller installed on it. So it's not, or it's not as a best practice not to install the DHCP, file server, and WSOS on the same server that contains the domain controller. So this should be installed on a separate server, and the file server should be installed on a separate server, and the WSOS should be installed on a separate server. But due to my limitation of hardware, I put them all on one virtual machine. And also this will have two network cards and will make teaming between them. Okay, so this is our scenario, and then we will make something called custom view logs. We know all that everything that happens in the Windows, it is recorded in something called event log. Okay, and this event log contains a lot of useful information we can use to troubleshoot anything related to the Windows. So what we will do, we will create something called custom log views. This is a way to categorize the event logs and make it more easy and readable. So we make it, or they make the event log to be customized in a way that we can easily get information and understand information concerning the different Windows errors. Okay, and we will do this by a PDF. So there is a PDF that we will learn from it how we can customize our event log, so we can get the most information from this event log, and we can get the most information we need from the event log in an easy and understandable way. Okay, so we will do this in our lab, and then we'll create users, groups and computers in our patient 0 domain using PowerShell scripts. So we'll create about 4,000 users and maybe about 20 Active Directory groups and about 1,000 computers and 400 servers. All of these Active Directory objects will be created using PowerShell scripts to make it more easy. So we will use PowerShell scripts to create bulk Active Directory objects. Okay, and then we will, in this lab, we will create group policies. Okay, and I will show you all how we can create group policies. Not only we all know that group policies, it is a way that the Active Directory use. So the group policy, it is a way that we use to control all of the Windows environment and all of our workstations and PCs. So for example, if I need to have a certain background to be applied to all of my PCs and servers in domain, we can do this using a group policy. Okay, so a group policy, it is a way to control the Windows environment on all of the servers and workstations. So is the group policy only a tool to control the Windows environment on all of the PCs and servers? No, we can use the group policy to control third-party programs. For example, if I need, for example, a certain home page to appear in my Firefox browser or Google Chrome browser or Edge browser, I can use on all of my PCs. For example, I can do this using a group policy. Okay, also the group policy will not only control the Windows environment, it can control different program or third-party environments. But to do this, we need to go and download group policy templates. For example, if I need to control the Firefox on all of my PCs in my domain, I need to go to the internet and download the group policy of Firefox and add it to my Active Directory, so I can control the Firefox browser on all of my PCs. We will have different group policy templates for different programs, and I'll show you all how we can download them and add them to our Active Directory environment so we can use them. For example, we will have a group policy for Chrome, Firefox, and I'll show you all how we can download this group policy templates and add them to the Active Directory. Okay, and we'll make something called Active Directory Group Policy Central Store Location. I'll show you all how this will be done, but later we will do this and I'll show you all how we can benefit from it. Okay, and then what we will do, we will create something called Active Directory Home Directory folders for all of our users in the domain. So what we mean by Active Directory home folders, every user in the Active Directory will have on my file server a folder for him, so he can put all of his personal data on it. So we will create, for example, we have 1000 Active Directory users in our Active Directory, we will create a folder for every one of these Active Directory users, and he will have full control over his folder, and he can put his personal data on it. So this is called Active Directory home folders. We will do this and I'll show you all we can do this using a PowerShell script, and also we will create something called network mapped drives for department shares. So what we will do, this Active Directory will contain groups, and it will contain this environment, or Active Directory environment will contain departments. So we will have not only for every Active Directory user a personal folder that he can put his data on it, but we will have a folder for his department. Just a moment. So let's continue, guys. As I said before, we will make something called network map drives for the department shares. So we will make folders on our file server, and we will share it for a bunch of Active Directory group users. So for example, if you had a group in the Active Directory called, for example, accounting, we will make on our file server a folder, and we will name it accounting, and we will share it for this Active Directory group called accounting, so they can access it, and we will control it, or we will control that only the Active Directory group called accounting will able to access this file created on or file that is created on our file server. Okay, and we will have the different permissions, NTFS permission, the SMB share permissions. We will do it using PowerShell script. And what we will do, we have a script. Okay, so on our file server we will have a script that will allow us to block ransom attacks. So for example, we all know that some ransom attacks take the files, for example Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and they encrypt them. So I will show you all that there is a script that will help us to evade or to stop the ransom attack. So for example, if the ransom begin encrypting some files, the script that it is on the file server will block this ransom from encrypting the files, and it will block the user that block the share of the user that this ransom attack or this ransom is attacking. For example, if you have a shared folder on your file server and the ransom virus begin attacking this shared file on your file server, the script that I will show you all, it will stop the ransom from encrypting the files and will block the share file or the shared file for this user. Okay, so I'll show you how this will be done, and I will show you all different ransom tools or ransom antiviruses to fix a ransom situation. So I will put you all, or I will show you all, or we will simulate a ransom attack situation, and we'll show you all how we can fix the ransom attack and how we can block the ransom attacks and control the ransom spreading as a whole. Okay, we have two workstations on two virtual machines. We will create and join them to the domain. Okay, so we will have our patient 0 city domain, and we'll have two workstations. We will join these two workstations to the patient 0 domain. This will have two operating systems installed. One is Windows 10 20 H2, the latest Windows 10 operating system, and we'll have Windows 10 LTSC 2019 Enterprise installed on another one. So we'll have one workstation, we'll have Windows 10 20 H2 Enterprise Edition installed on it, and we'll have another virtual machine, we'll have Windows 10 LTSC 2019 Enterprise Edition installed on it. I recommend to use the LTSC because it is a very good and stable Windows 10 operating system, and it is light, and it doesn't take a lot of resources or hardware resources, and it contains a lot of advantages. I urge you all to search Google and see what is the benefits of using Windows 10 LTSC 2019 Enterprise. And then in this lab I will show you all that we have an Active Directory login script that will be applied to all of the users in our domain. So the first time the user logs in to our domain, there is different steps to be applied on him. So for example, when the user is logged in, he will see two keyboard layouts added to him. So we'll see the English and Arabic keyboard layout added to the user as soon as he logs in to the domain for the first time, and then we will see that the time on the machine will be changed to Cairo time zone, and then we will hide the Cortana. Okay, the toolbar of Cortana. Okay, this also will be done using the login script, and we will have some other things done by this Active Directory login script. I will show you all when we begin working with login scripts in the Active Directory. Okay, and we will use some tools called Nearsoft tool. This is a website that contains a lot of different or useful tools. We can track the different user activities on different machines. For example, these tools, we can use it to track what did a certain user do on the machine, what files he opened, what browsers he opened, what websites he was browsing. All of this we can use it to investigate a situation where, for example, there is a user theft, or for example, or there is a hacker attack. For example, you can use these tools to track the activities of users or the hacker, for example, on a machine, or the different user. For example, if you have a user, for example, that have deleted a file, for example, and you need to know what is the ID of this user, you can use these tools or Nearsoft tools to track the different user activities. There is a lot of things actually concerning these tools I will also discuss in this lab. And then we will begin using or making group policies, as I said before, and apply it to all of the users in our domain. And we will use something called Microsoft Security Baseline Group Policies. These are recommended group policies by Microsoft to be applied to Windows 10 and Windows Server and Office 2019 and Microsoft Edge. So Microsoft has a couple of group policies they recommend for you to be applied to your users in your domain. So there is a group policy on Microsoft recommended group policy for Windows 10 operating system and Windows Server operating system and Office. So there is a group policy recommendation for the Office 2019, and there also a group policy recommendation for Microsoft Edge. I will show you all how we can download these group policies and apply them to our domain, and we will configure them, and we will configure different group policies for Firefox, Chrome, and Edge. As I said before, I can use the group policies to control third-party programs like Firefox, Chrome, and Edge. For example, if I need a certain home page to be appearing on my Firefox browser on all of my PCs in the domain, we can use this, or we can do this using a group policy, okay, in our Active Directory. Okay, and also I will show you all how we can use a software called PDQ. This is a program that we can use to deploy some software to a huge number of PCs in our domain. For example, I need to apply, or for example, I need to deploy or to install, for example, Firefox on 100 PC in my domain. We can do this remotely and silently using something called BDQ software. I will show you all how this also will be done in our scenario. Okay, and also I will show you all how we can deploy, for example, some softwares also not using the PDQ but using a group policy. So we can use group policies to deploy some softwares. For example, if you need to deploy a certain software to a bunch of PCs in your domain, you can do this using the PDQ or using the group policy in the Active Directory. Baba. So let's continue. As I said before, we can use a group policy to deploy some software to a bulk of PCs silently and all large numbers using a group policy. And then I will show you all using different PowerShell scripts how we can use a PowerShell script to make PC inventory to all of our PCs in our domain, and to make inventory with the permissions that we are using in our domain. So we will use different PowerShell scripts to make hardware inventory to our PCs in our domain and permissions inventory to archive our permissions or the permissions on our folders in our domain. So all of this also will be done using PowerShell scripts. And I will use a software called DemWare software. This is a software that you can use to control different workstations in your domain. For example, by using this software, you can access different PCs in your domain remotely. For example, if I have a workstation and install DemWare software on it, I can use this software to connect remotely to different PCs in my domain. Actually, it's not only this. You cannot use, or this is not the only advantage of this software. You can use this software to connect to different PCs remotely from a centralized location, and you can do a lot of useful things using the DemWare software. But take note that this tool, it is from the SolarWinds company, so you need to be very careful when you install this software. You need to be sure that it is updated to the latest security updates, because as we all know that SolarWinds was hacked recently. Okay, and you'll see the different options, and you can use also this DemWare software to make software inventory for all of our PCs in our domain. Okay, this is another one, and we will use something called Chocolatey. This is a way that you can install a software to large numbers of PC silently, okay, using PowerShell script and using a way called Chocolatey, and we'll show you all how this also will be done. And we will install a software called AD Manager Plus. This is a software that will manage the Active Directory. I'll show you all how useful this tool is, and it contains a lot of useful reports we can use to get a lot of things concerning the Active Directory. Okay, and I will show you all another way how we can use the Excel to connect to the Active Directory database, so all of our Active Directory objects and activity are stored on a database. I will show you all we can connect to this database using Excel and to get the most beneficial information from this database. Okay, this is a manual way, and we can use the AD Manager Plus. So we have two ways, a free way and a prepaid way. Okay, and then I will show you all how we can create something called Windows 10 Safe Mode option, and how this safe mode can be appearing, or it will appear during the boot of Windows 10 operating system. Okay, we all remember that in Windows 7 during the boot of the system, if you press F9, you will see a menu called Safe Mode menu. You can choose from it to boot to the Windows in safe mode. This was deleted, or it was removed from Windows 10. I will show you how we can revive this option to Windows 10 the same as Windows 7, and how we can use this option to our benefit. Okay, and then I will show you how we can use something called Windows Admin Center. This is a centralized tool that we can monitor and view our servers from a centralized location. So you have a workstation and you install Windows Admin Center on it, and through it you can access your for example domain controllers, servers from this centralized utility. And I'll show you how we can use it, how we can through it implement PowerShell commands on different or PowerShell commands on remote servers. I will show you all how to do this. Okay, and I will show you how we can delete a bulk of users and their Active Directory home folders using the AD Manager Plus. So there is a way you can delete a large number of users or Active Directory users in the domain and their attached home folders, okay, as I said before, using the AD Manager Plus. So I'll show you although also this will be done. Okay, and we will use something called the Hsp Mac Filter. This is an option in the Hsp that you control who takes IP address from the DHCP by the MAC address of the network card. So you tell the DHCP that the PC that has the network card that its MAC address is X, give him an IP address, allow him to take an IP address, or deny. You have both options. Okay, and we will also see in this video or this series how we can make something called restore image. We know that there is a kind of restore options that, for example, if you need to restore a Windows image, you can, for example, you have a laptop and press F11, it will take you to an automatic recovery restore image. I will show you all we can make a customized one using a utility Acronis called one key recovery option. I'll show you how we can do this, so how we can make a custom recovery image and how we can restore it using an option called F11 or using F11 during the boot of the PC. I'll show you how this will be done and how this can be done doing the Acronis or using something called Windows 10 custom reset image. So I will show you two ways you can restore Windows operating system using a custom image through the Acronis or a reset image through the Windows 10. I'll show you all of this will be done also using this two ways. So this is briefly what we will do in this series, and I will show you all a way or we will show you something how, or we will take a look on the scripts itself, how they look, how we will work in this lab. So for example, here is the folder that contains all of our scripts. For example, if we go to here and go to there, we will see that there is a folder called scripts. Here is all of the scripts, or for example, there is some bunch of scripts that we will use to create different Active Directory objects. So we will have a PowerShell script here to create computers, okay, or create security groups, create Active Directory home folders, create a lot of things. So here this is a folder called scripts you will use to create a large number of Active Directory users, computers and groups using PowerShell scripts, okay. And here is for example, the users or the users of our domain. So you can see here, for example, that there is a bunch of things here. We can see that these are the users that we will use here. So for example, we will have a user called Osmosis John, okay. This is an Active Directory user. He is a white cell, and this is the patient 0 city, and this is the password, and this is the division. He is in the brain state. So these are different users in our domain. For example, here we can see red cell. There is a user called red cell. It is in the brain state, and this is the password. So basically our Active Directory will consist of red cells, white cells, and a lot of things, okay. So this is in a brief, okay, what the way it will look, okay. And I can show you all for example let's show you all here the Active Directory organizational units. So for example, if you go here, let me open the organizational structure. So here we have our Active Directory organizational structure. We can see here that, for example, we have an organizational called city, and then we'll have something called Neuralink, and then we'll have something called cell groups, and then we'll have something called brain. This is a folder or organization called brain, and then cerebellum, and then brainstem, and then body cells, and then we'll have red, white platelet cells. So we'll have different organization units, okay, for different things in our domain. So we have, as you see here, this is the organizational structure, and I'll show you all for example, the computers, the security groups. All of this will be done using PowerShell scripts. And here is our login script or Active Directory login script, okay. This is the things that we will do, or the script that will be applied to the users when they log in, okay. And this is the different things, or the different things that we will use in our lab, or this is the folder that we will use in our lab. I will discuss it one by one, okay, when it comes, but this is a brief thing or a brief situation about our users. So as I said before, so we will have as I said before, here this is the organization units will be according to the body structure. So we will have organization unit called city, organization called Neuralink, organization unit called the brain, and then we will have something called heart, and then we will have something called kidney, and then we have called lungs. And every one of these organization units will contain sub-organization units for white cells, red cells, nerve cells, COVID-19, and then vaccines. So we'll have a lot of Active Directory organization units in our imaginary scenario concerning this situation. And we will have, as I said before, here we'll have users. We can go here. We will have users here that are imaginary. So for example, here we have Osmosis Zone. As I said before, he's a white cell. And then for example, here we will have something called red cell, we will have an active directory user called red cell 14, for example. We will have another one called, so we'll have imaginary users palette cells 13, okay, and we will have white cells, okay. There is a user called white cell, and we have a user called COVID-19 and we will have a user called Pfizer. For example, here we have a lot of users, so we'll have an active directory user called Pfizer. So let me show you all a little bit here. For example, all of these are users, imaginary users. So here, let's go further. We have 4,000 users. So we have Pfizer, we have a user called Pfizer 399, and we will have a user called Johnson & Johnson or Moderna, okay. This is another user, active directory user. And we will have, so you know the idea, we have imaginary users, okay. We consider the Pfizer users, the white cells, the red cells as users in the active directory, and we will continue our situation using this imaginary scenario. So let's go there, okay, and this is our the scripts and a lot of things here, and there's a lot of scripts that we'll use. So until the next video, hope this video is informative for you all, and would like to thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.